Chapter 14. As the inspector's security key, which gained him access to the express lift, was now at the bottom of the Thames amongst the hydrated aluminium silicate, quartz, organic fragments, sedimentary rocks and other deposits, not to mention a certain amount of alluvial matter, Horvis was forced to take the stairs. Had he not held the Argyll and Southern Highlanders Hill Yomp trophy for a full 3 years, there is no telling how things might have ended. A lesser man would have certainly perished. Inspector Horvis straightened his spare regimental necktie, slicked back a brilliantined forelock, squared the immaculate shoulders of his other suit, and stood to attention before the door which had so recently been his. His name was no longer upon it. A large new brass plate engraved with the words, Chief Inspector Lytton, knock and wait, was firmly screwed in its place. It looked anything but temporary. Knock and wait. Horvis swung open the door and marched straight in. And he was not pleased at what he saw. Chief Inspector Brian Lytton had made himself very much at home. All trace of Horvis, other than for his precious Louis XIV ormulu-mounted Kingswood and Pocketry knee-hole desk, the gift of a grateful monarch, had been wiped away. The walls were now painted a frightful puce. Horrid computer things were all around and about, and the carpet was definitely of a man-made fibre. A large framed prints of white horses coming out of the sea hung near the window. Excruciating! Inspector Horvis viewed it all with distaste, especially the man behind the desk. Chief Inspector Lytton was short, stout, and baby-faced, with that fresh, scrubbed look. He had little piggy eyes. His suit was double-breasted. He sat behind the royal desk, drinking from a paper cup. An Olympic logo of cup stains bastardised the priceless surface. "I didn't hear you knock," he said.
"I did,"
Horvis replied.
"Several times."
"I really must get a bell installed then. The door is quite thick, and I fear it presents difficulties for those enfeebled officers of advancing years who no longer retain the strength in their right arms."
Horvis moved his mouth, as if in speech, but uttered no words.
"Sorry," said Lytton. "I didn't catch that."
"I said you'd better get a great big bell,"
Horvis shouted.
"in case you have a problem hearing it. What with the traffic noise and everything,"
he added politely.
"Ah, yes, indeed. Sit down then, Horvis. Take a pew."
Horvis sat down.
"Settling into the porter cabin all right?"
"No,"
said Horvis.
"It's completely inadequate. I will certainly need to return to this office if I am to successfully instigate the secret task force operation that I was discussing last night with the Chief of Police."
He paused to evaluate the effect of this outrageous lie.
"I shall await my briefing from him then," said Lytton. "I happen to be dining with him tonight."
Beneath the wrong side of his desk, Inspector Horvis clenched and unclenched his fists.
"Now, let us talk of other matters."
The Chief Inspector set down his paper cup.
"Sherringford. Might I call you Sherringford?"
"Of course, Brian."
"So glad. Now, it behooves me to tell you that, as you may have noticed, the department is currently going through major restructuring. It's all down to government funding, or the lack of, the recession, cutbacks, things of that nature. Someone has to go. That's the nub of it."
"We'll be sorry to lose you,"
said Horvis.
"Me? Oh, very droll. You will have your little joke."
Horvis smiled. Lytton did not.
"Weight pulling. That's the thing. Some of us are doing it, others not. Crime figures, clear-up rates, books to be balanced. Not my province, really. The big boys upstairs. Administration. What do they know about grassroots detection?
"Nothing."
Horvis shook his head.
"Nothing at all."
"Nothing at all. You're so right. But they do have to say so. Isn't it always the way?"
"Always,"
said Inspector Horvis.
"So there you are."
"Where?"
asked Horvis.
"Where am I?"
Said the Chief Inspector.
"Out on your ear, I'm afraid. Redundant. Taking an early retirement. That's where."
"What?"
went Horvis.
What?
Knew you'd take it like a man. Told them upstairs. Begged them to reconsider, of course, but they were adamant. Still, look on the bright side. Give you a chance to spend more time with your wife and family.
I do not have a wife and family.
Hovis gripped the arms of his chair and began to rock in a distinctly manic fashion.
No wife and family? Then you should get one, my dear fellow. I've 2 girls myself, 8 and 10. That's a photo of them over there on the wall, on the ponies.
No,
said Hovis.
No.
Bit of a shock, eh? Thought it might be. Giving your life to the force, feel like you've been kicked in the teeth, worthless, thrown on the scrap heap. My heart goes out to you, and if you ever need a reference, don't hesitate to write.
Went Hovis.
No need to thank me, but cut along now. Don't forget to hand in your warrant card. End of the week, eh? Sorry to have to rush you, but we need the porter cabin. Temporary ladies' loo, apparently. What a world we live in, eh?
Hovis rose from his chair. He would make it look like an accident or suicide. The Chief Inspector, stricken with remorse, threw himself from the window. Chief Inspector Lytton took a regulation police-issue revolver from his top drawer and pointed it at his murderer-to-be.
Don't even think about it, he said. Now piss off out of my office before I call a policeman.
Behold the marvel, said Hugo Rune, tearing aside the silken cloth. I can't behold from down here, Tuppe complained. Give us a lift up, Cornelius.
My pleasure.
Cornelius hoisted Tuppe into the viewing position. Crikey, went the small one. Now that is a neat trick.
Isn't it, though?
Rune fluttered his pudgy fingers. Tuppe flinched accordingly.
Do you now understand the beauty of the thing?
It's here,
said Cornelius, gazing with considerable awe.
It's a miniature of this room, and of us. I thought you said it was a copy of that ancient fellow's chamber.
A microcosm, Rune explained. The device is built into the tabletop. Take the table where you will, uncover it, and there displayed will be a microcosm of the immediate surroundings.
It's very clever. How's it work?
Have you ever heard of the transperambulation of pseudo-cosmic antimatter?
Not as such.
Best not concern yourself, then. It works. It is a thing of wonder.
And it scares the salami out of me, said Tuppe. Am I really that small?
You're as big as you feel, said Cornelius. How do you feel, by the way?
About ready for the main course now.
Well, Cornelius put down the Tuppe. Thank you for showing it to us, Mr. Rune.
Forget the Rune, my boy. You may call me Daddy. No, it's still Guru, said Hugo Rune. And so you see the beauty of my plan.
What plan is this?
Cornelius looked baffled.
My plan to bring down the denizens of the Forbidden Zones.
Ah, that plan.
Cornelius nodded gently. He felt sure that he was much taller than Hugo Rune, but somehow he always seemed to be looking up at him.
Let us discuss it over the main course, said Rune. Come on, Shorty.
Please do not call my friend Shorty, said Cornelius.
I wasn't talking to your friend,
said Hugo Rune.
I was talking to you.
Inspector Hovis returned to the porter cabin. Polly recognised his distinctive door slamming and didn't look up from her work.
Would you like me to put the kettle on again?
She asked. Hovis did not reply.
I located that file you wanted. It's a big fat one.
Polly rose to hand it over and found herself staring into a face which seemed to have aged by at least 10 years in less than half an hour.
Sit down.
Polly reached forward and took Hovis by the arm.
You look dreadful. It's probably a reaction to that Thames water. Sit down and I'll call for a doctor.
Hovis allowed himself to be helped into the porter cabin's only chair. It occurred to him, as Polly fussed about, that he could not recall when he last felt a woman's touch upon him. A dismal groan escaped from his lips.
Just take it easy, said Polly. I'll get help.
I don't need any help,
the inspector told her.
There is nothing physically wrong with me. It's just that I have received some tragic news.
Not a death in your family?
No, I said tragic news.
Eh?
You'd best take the rest of the day off, Polly, or the week, if you please. You must find yourself another position. I will furnish you with superb references.
You're sacking me? What have I done?
Not I. Hovis crossed his heart. Brian, the bastard Lytton. He has cut me back. I am redundant.
He can't do that, Polly protested. I've read up on your cases. You've solved more crimes than anyone else in the history of the Vols.
I am touched that you should show such an interest,
said Horvis, who truly was.
But all in Brentford, said Polly. How come you solved every crime in Brentford?
Horvis hung his head.
But he can't sack you. He just can't.
He can, and he has. Early retirement.
Then we'll fight him. You must have many connections, many friends in high places. Life has no blessing like a prudent friend, to quote from Euripides.
I have no friends,
said Horvis.
What? None at all?
None at all. I have no connections. Everybody hates me.
Everybody?
Everybody.
Oh, said Polly. That makes me feel a lot better. I thought it was only me. Hating you, that is.
It's an image thing. All we really great detectives have it. The eccentric mannerism, the funny voice, the strange moustache, the pipe, the tin leg, the penchant for tiny woodland creatures.
Oh,
said Polly.
Mine is being hated by everybody.
Oh, I understand. You're sort of a anti-hero.
No,
said Hovis.
I'm just a nasty bastard.
Oh, you're not so bad.
Polly would have placed a consoling hand upon the immaculate, if now somewhat drooping shoulder of the great detective, had not the very thought sickened her to the stomach.
You really aren't that bad. Really. Certainly you're arrogant, conceited, short-tempered, misogynistic, boorish and boring. No offence meant.
None taken, I assure you.
But you are a brilliant detective, and so you must not be sacked. What do you intend to do?
Pack up and go home, I suppose. Sell my memoirs to a Sunday tabloid. Maybe get a spot on Crime Watch.
But what about the crime of the century? This destiny you told me you had to fulfil. No man or woman born, coward or brave, can shun his destiny. Homer.
I've been given until the weekend to put my affairs in order.
A week in politics can be a long time to quote.
Quote me no further quotes,
said Horvis.
Please.
Polly made fists at the ceiling.
I don't want to be made redundant. It sucks on the dole. Surely we can think of something. There has to be something.
I did have one idea, said Horvis thoughtfully. It's an old trick, but it might just work.
Tell me.
You must swear to keep it secret.
I swear.
Polly licked her finger and made motions above the bosom area.
Cross my heart and hope to die.
We could discredit Lytton.
Now that is a brilliant idea. What should we do?
Inspector Horvis leaned back in his chair and stared onto space.
Catch him in a compromising situation, in the arms of some harlot. Burst in, camera in hand, flagrante delicto. The deed is done. I think that would do the trick.
And serve the bugger right, too, jumped up little shit.
Quite so. Right then. I'll pop out to Boots and get some film for the old box brownie. You go up to his office, whip off all your clothes, and prostrate yourself across the desk. Shall we synchronize watches?
Polly looked at Horvis, and Horvis looked at Polly.
Go and suck,
said Polly, gotting.
I'm off to the job centre.
Unseen hands had replenished a great table, and another course lay ready for the digging into. Rune dug in, and he spoke as he did so.
We must wipe out the beings in the forbidden zones, quoth he. Wipe them out while there are still a few of us left.
I don't think I quite follow that. Cornelius heaped goodies onto his latest plate.
Mankind declines, said Rune solemnly. We grow fewer every day.
I would hate to be the one to contradict you, Guru, but the population of the world is, as ever, on the increase.
It is nothing of the sort. Those within the zones grow in number. We decline. Once we were many, but we grow fewer by the year.
And might I ask how you come to this conclusion?
Simple mathematics. Allow me to explain.
Rune thrust his thumbs into his waistcoat pockets and regarded his audience.
How many are there of you, personally?
He asked Cornelius. Me personally? One, I suppose.
Correct. One. And how many parents do you have?
2, said Cornelius. Everybody has 2.
A mother and a father.
Correct again, 2. And how many grandparents?
4, said Cornelius.
And great-grandparents? 8. And great-great-grandparents? 16. And great-great-great-grandparents? 32. And so it goes on. Every generation you go back, you double it. By the time you go back a mere 23 generations, you have a figure in excess of 4 million people, every one of which was necessary if you were ever to be born at all. The further you go back, the greater the number of people.
There has to be something wrong with that, said Tuppe, giving his head a serious scratch. But for the life of me, I can't think what.
There cannot be anything wrong with it, declared Rune. Work it out on a pocket calculator if you don't believe me. You cannot disprove an ultimate truth.
Tuppe began to count on his fingers. Cornelius asked, "Where is this getting us?"
We must wage war upon the forbidden zones now.
Rune struck the table another mighty blow.
We must purge the planet of this unseen pestilence, this cankerous bubo, this septic pus-filled...
I think we get the picture, said Cornelius Murphy. We're all for that. Tuppe and I have sworn ourselves to this very end. It's just that we haven't made much of a success of it so far.
But that is because you lack the wisdom and guidance of Hugo Rune.
Oh, said Cornelius. You think that was it then?
Rune nodded. Indubitably. Under my benevolent leadership, we will stamp out these fairies, devils more like, throw off the shackles that constrain mankind, raise high the battle standard of the ultimate truth.
Do you have a plan? Cornelius asked.
Plan? Do I have a plan? I have a stratagem.
Tell us, Guru, said the Tuppe. Cornelius raised an eyebrow to the small fellow.
It is a 2-part stratagem, said Rune. Part 1 is concerned with drawing the world's attention to the existence of the forbidden zones. I will speak of that in good time. Part 2 deals with the extermination of those inside these zones. And this is where the Ragged Ancient's magical table comes into play. Allow me to explain. I have spent many years inside the zones. I am au fait with their layout. There exists a great hall, the Hall of the King, and when part 1 of the plan has been put into operation, and there is much confusion within the zones, it is to this great hall that the so-called fairy folk will rush. And suppose that one of us is in there, and the magical table is in there with them. Use your imagination, gentlemen.
Tuppe grinned and pictured himself reaching down into the miniature facsimile of this great hall to place his thumb upon the head of Mr. Arthur Corbould. "Hasta la vista, baby," said the Tuppe. Chief Inspector Lytton peered down through the Venetian blinds. He watched Polly leave the porter cabin and storm across the car park.
"And that," said Lytton, "would appear to be that."
The telephone began to ring, and so he picked it up.
"Lytton."
"Everything's ordered?" asked a voice.
"He's clearing out his desk."
"Good work. You've done very well. I think you can expect another promotion within the year."
"Thank you very much,"
said Brian Lytton.
"Don't mention it," replied the voice of Arthur Corbould. "We look after our own."